good.
Yeah, it is. I'll have to introduce you to that.
Another spectacular pick.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Coming all the way to Texas to hang out. Yeah.
It's definitely different than being in Richmond.
Yeah, I bet right now too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cold when I left and a little colder here when I landed.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's Texas weather.
You never know what you're going to expect, huh?
Yeah. How do you encourage others around you to lean into their authenticity too?
Well, find people who give you that freedom, right? So, like, I have a list of people that I want to mention.
He's going to give us Oscars.
Just a few shout outs, right? So it's like in my family, I have my dad, who has been my biggest champion throughout my life, especially after he retired from the Marine Corps. He's like my best friend. I talk to him literally every day. It's like my cousin Yvonne, my cousin Cece, my grandma, my Aunt Sophia. Like, those are like my family core, right?
Yeah.
And then you move into like my friendships, right? So it's like Tim and Tara, Mara, like these people call to check up on me. It's like, how are you?
Your pocket people, that's what Mara calls them, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like some days they hit me up when I need it, and I'm just like sobbing because it's like life can be hard, right? And then when you think of like paradigm people, like you are definitely one of my paradigm people. You have been a catalyst of my life in this industry. Before you was like Dory Baker, it's Keisha, Miss Joy, Jessie Wynn Judith, Ashley Reynolds, Dan and Ruth Harrison, John Hughes, and April Denny. And then like the career bubble, right, starts off with like Dr. Janice Underwood, part of the Biden-Harris administration, like taking a risk on a young kid to come be a keynote at a water conference.
Yeah.
Like DEI practitioner. You have April Bingham in Richmond, who takes time to pour into young professionals. You have Solomon Abel, and then TJ Strobel, who like literally went out of his way to like put me in spaces and places and build relationships. Like, when you talk about the well-meaning white people, like those are some of the people that come to mind. And then finally, you got Sean Heselton, Darissa, and Supriya, who helped me become like a practitioner. So those are the list of people who are like my cloud of witnesses, my support, my community, and have helped me emerge into who I've become.
Yeah.
Because before that, I've had trouble, tribulations, people who were against the idea of me and like did not give space for me to exude into my own essence.
Yeah.
Right? So meaning that like, I think we're all a budding seed until we decide to become what we are meant to be. And so for a long time, I was just trying to play by the rules and like, like a great example is The Awakened Genius, the book you gave me, like reminded me that I am me. Like at 13 years old, Blessed to Bless Others was on my business card, because I know that I am to live in service, right? Like I get opportunities in abundance, and I literally try to bless others with what I have, because it's no fun if you're doing it by yourself. To win all the trophies and awards, I've done that. But like, they don't keep me company. Their trophies are horrible conversationalists. Like, if you've ever tried to talk to a medal, it doesn't really talk back.
Yeah.
You can read the inscription on it a few times, but like, for me to thrive, I need community.
Yeah.
And so for anybody on like that journey of self-discovery, you have to find people who will empower, encourage, and be that village. You have to make your own.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long-winded response.
That wasn't. No, it was great. I love it. And I was laughing while you were reading that list only because I love that you did it, because So thank you for giving all of those shout-outs, because I think it's important for people to hear those names and to know what they meant to you. I mean, I feel like you're making me think of running through my own list of people that I could have in that. Ooh, and I don't want to think about it yet because it's too early in this conversation to get emotional. But
I mean, but like, pause though. When you think about, nobody makes it by themselves. And like, when you take a moment to appreciate the people who helped you get to where you are, like, nobody has to do anything for anybody. But like, when you tap into that generosity of like community and people, and you're doing things out of the sheer kindness of your heart, the generosity that you've been blessed with, it changes any situation into an opportunity to find gratitude and like cultivate something meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you were talking about giving me my flowers,
Yes.
and this is not a selfish promotion, but it is important for you to talk about how you talk about how Catalyst being a catalyst for you.
Yes.
What is it about that experience that you think is so important that was maybe filling a gap in what exists in the industry?
Yeah, so if we're talking industry specific, it is like the culmination of people who are like us, right?
Yeah.
And it is the most incredible niche of people that I've ever been at. And like, I've never left a conference so fulfilled, like on a spiritual, emotional, like social, like all my cups got filled. And it's like, you don't want that last night around the fire to end. And it's like, to build relationships that quickly, it's scary.
It's crazy, yeah.
But like, and then you come back the second year and it's like, hey, you're here. And it's like, it's the recognition that the village that you've been seeking exists.
Yeah.
And so Catalyst for me did all of that on a social and a professional level, right? Now all of a sudden I have 10 people I can call that if I need to workshop an issue, cool, I've actually dealt with it. Use this.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a phone call versus like a nightmare.
Yeah.
It makes everything, it gives you perspective, right?
Yeah.
It changes that. So it is essential because like the amount of work that you put in, the team that you have behind it, like was so like it was intentional, right? It's an intentional gathering of like-minded people to do something more.
Yeah.
And so for me, a newcomer in the industry, right? I've done a bunch of communications work in a bunch of different fields. Like I get made fun of because my resume is like,
Takes a long time to read.
because I have so
It's a
many.
page turner.
Yeah, but it's behind each thing that's on there is a unique story.
It is.
Or a unique experience. And so, so one of the things that happened for me, early in my job is like people felt like I didn't pay my dues and I was getting access to opportunities. I'm just like, number one, I'm a black person in America. There is no way you're telling me I haven't paid my dues because I promise you from the legacy of my heritage, like somebody's paid. And so it's just like nothing that I'm given is for free and I'm going to work hard for it, right? So, and you want somebody who comes in with a different perspective because there's a lot of stagnation in this industry. And so it's just like when at Catalyst, it's shaken up because it's like, hey, we have the person who literally did marketing come into Louisville Water and she's teaching you like what she's done to make this like everywhere, everything. And it's just like, you want the tap from Louisville. Like it's like everything's a game changer. So it's like you come back with new ideas and ways that don't cost a lot of money. It's just ingenuity at its finest.
Yeah. Well, a goal of Catalyst has always been to be more than just skill building, but to be like people building, like yourself building. And I think our hidden or our internal identities, which are, I think just as crucial to how we show up, as anyone watching this right now can see the external identities that we may or can make good assumptions about the external identities that we put out there, but there's things that you don't see. And I wanted to talk to you about this because this is where we bonded being military kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of you and I both have, it deals with perfectionism. You and I, service is very important to us. Like, talk about how you think being a military kid influenced you.
So being a military kid, we're the worst. I speak objectively for all of us. If you're a military kid, this message applies to you. We are literally like have a horrific God complex. Because, when we're kids, we're taught about death, we're talking about mortality, we're talking about like whatever, but like we also see the world through a different frame, right? So we see how quickly things can happen if they need to happen, right? You see how quickly things can be motivated to change if there's motivation to change it. You can see, like large cargoes, being loaded in ships or planes, and like you have a different reality that you are raised in. And then you have a different type of structure that is very efficient. And then you compare that to the bureaucracies that, in our organizations and just other places in society. And you're just like, how does nothing get done with all of this time, energy, and resources that you have behind it? So from a very early spot in life, you have a different purview. And so when it comes to operating in excellence, operating with like this drive to get something accomplished, military kids are like none other, right?
Yeah.
Because we all believe, and because we can, right, change the world, right? Like, I mean, I think I was 10 when I was just like, oh, I'm gonna change the world. Like, what 10-year-olds talking about changing the world versus what the toy they want, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a blessing and a curse because we have a different vision, we have different perspective, right?
Expectations.
Oh, that are thrust on us because you will be perfect. So if I have to be perfect, you're going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You're going to operate at maximum efficiency. You're going to operate at near perfect. It's not excellence isn't that was the quote. Excellence is required, not desired, or something like that. It's not a choice. Like you will be. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So you become a diamond.
Do you think, we are, yes. So we see the world a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And have experienced things from a little bit different. I want to talk about that, but I want to come back to community for just a second because for us, community in our minds is already a blended situation.
Yes.
But what role do you think community plays in, this industry talks a lot about workforce development.
Yeah.
And in the last season of Raising the Bar, my guests there were talking about getting people into the industry is not getting people of color into the industry and women into the industry is not necessarily the problem. It's retaining them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like retention is very closely tied to community.
Absolutely.
So, what are your thoughts on that side?
So I do a lot of DEI work. I'm actually the chair for the Virginia section of AWWA for DEI. And I think it's an interesting problem because people don't understand that, your employer dictates whether you retain or not, right? If you like coming to work, the chances are you're not going to leave it. But the fact that DEI is a checkbox that many employers feel like that they can just check off and call it a day and isn't something that is throughout their entire organization is a problem, right? It's not a checkbox type of situation. It's a culture change. And when you become aware of that and you sincerely put time, energy, and money, effort towards changing your culture, people will stay. My last company, I was a problem because I challenged the status quo. I would ask questions. I was the youngest person of color. I was young and I was a person of color. And I also did this weird thing that they don't understand called communications. And so it's they like it when they need it, but other than that, please be quiet and stay in your little box. Mm-hmm. So.
You should take a sip of that too.
Yeah,
Sorry. Hey, don't judge. This is a safe space,
no
Gerry.
judgment. I just don't want to get, you're Air Force brat. I can't get drunk enough.
Okay.
But so the significance of community, diversity, all metrics, right? There's so many data reserves that show how diversity wins. You get diversity through community, right? You get community by creating a culture that sustains it. There is an apprehension in most organizations to that because they don't see it as something that generates value. And so I don't know how you explain to somebody who literally doesn't see how this will enhance your productivity, but if you take a break to be, creative.
Or a human being.
Yeah, just recognizing the humanity. It literally will enhance your productivity because you had a break, right?
Yeah.
And so teaching that throughout our industry has been very difficult because everybody's looking at the bottom line. And it's just if you instead of you looking at the bottom line, look at the people. And how can you honor them? The profits will take care of themselves.
Preach that, Minister of Water.
I like Water Pastor.
Water Pastor, thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to keep that.
Well, see, this is why I love our conversations because we can talk about kind of these three facets of identity. So there is the identity that everyone can see right now. there's those other identities, which I talked about, in your lived experience, your upbringing. So for us, that's what comes with being military kids. But there is an incredibly under talked about piece of that of your mental health and identity.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely a piece in if you're bringing your whole self to work and what that means. And I think I love that you shared with me that you were neurodivergent.
Yes.
And I know that is probably a term that most people in our industry don't even know what that is or what that means. So like talk to me about, because that's something that's kind of recently. Yeah. So talk about that.
So when I confessed that, it was like the scariest thing ever.
We're just saying it on camera now. No big deal.
No, everybody's gonna see it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Gerry has ADHD." Yes, explains a lot, doesn't it? Like if you look, like so in my relationships, like I would talk to my girlfriend and be like, "Hey, I'm ADHD, so these are some things that are going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have days where I just am paralyzed because I have so many things on my plate because I'm also an overachiever. I'm going to start random projects and probably not finish them, right? Like when it comes to emailing you, I'm going to disappoint you, right? And that's been a great unlocking from one of the members of my community. So Miss Val, I'm sure I read her name on the list, but like she literally just gave me space and food, right?
Food. I mean, that's key piece.
Go to Val's. It's in Lynchburg. It's delicious. But like, so when you find those people who give you space to be yourself, you start like recognizing that like everybody's different, everybody's valuable, and like because everybody has value, like you need to allow yourself the same grace you give others. And so for me, owning who I am is earning the places. Like I have a neurological disability. I need medication to help maintain life because I have to work, right?
Yeah.
And so recognizing that that is a reality that I will have to cope with probably for the rest of my life, because when I'm not on my medication, it's horrible. Because I am depressive, I am emotional, and just like all over the place. But like, I can regulate it. And so giving space to your employees, right? Like, so bringing it to context.
Yeah.
Gives them empowerment and encouragement to own something that is scary for them to process, right? Like, nobody in my last job knew that I was neurodivergent because I was petrified of the ramifications. Mm-hmm. I'm at a place now where I work for CDM Smith. Like, that can't be a secret. It's on LinkedIn, right? But, like, they're, like, from DEI, like, they recognize and understand that that's a part of me. My neurodivergence, they understand and recognize that that's a part of me. And, like, just being able to vocalize it takes an enormous load off of, like, my everyday, because there's a little bit of understanding, empathy, grace, and recognizing that Gerry's going to come through.
Yeah.
Just work within, what he needs.
Yeah.
And so Priya also, like, so she was the DEI chair before me. She was just like, because I don't like to disappoint people, right? Part of the reason why I was nervous even today, it's like, oh my God, Stephanie wants me to come and like be a part of this. And it's just like, I have to put you on a pedestal because you are a person who has opened doors for so many people, right? And so it's just like, I'm not necessarily going to bend at an altar and just like,
Please don't.
But like, you have to like honor those who make way. And so like, Sapriya was someone who's like, oh, you just need somebody who's good at administrative stuff. I need you to show up and like work a room and bring your energy and just be who you are.
Yeah.
And when that's validated, it like encourages, motivates, inspires, and like literally speaks life. Yeah. So now back to context. If you're an employer and you speak life into your employees, number one, you're going to retain them because you are making an environment that is safe for them mentally, physically, and like psychologically. If you take care of that, what's the triangle of needs? Maslow.
Hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so it's like taking care of those needs makes it where they are now empowered and willing, and there's a desire to show up.
Yeah. Bottom line, when it comes down to, especially things with your, like, I'm calling it your mental identity. That's probably a weird way to phrase it, but just what you got going on there, it all comes back to communication and just having the courage to be vulnerable about those things that make you who you are, because that's how people know how to relate to you. So for me, and working in the creative space, that's been a big deal of just asking questions, because I'm a very visual, tactile learner. Somebody can, for example, like, let's look at this set. Like, production team could explain this verbally or in an email, and I'd be like, I don't, what? And then they'd have to show me an example or a picture or make it something that I could see. And that's, but I have to say, like, and I say that all the time now. I'm a visual, tactile learner. Like, can you show it to me in somehow, or show me an example or something? So it's just, it all comes back to comms and vulnerability. And there's so many facets of identity. Being military kids, we're very comfortable and familiar with the gray. Not everything is black and white.
It is not.
But shifting gears, I warned you that I was going to ask for a favorite quote or a best piece of advice. So what do you got?
So it kind of makes me pivot back to, just being empowered, like kind of the remember who you are. I love Ted Lasso. Any quote will
Shout
work,
out. We got
here,
Roy
there,
Kent
everywhere,
right here.
there's Kent. But being curious would probably be the first one that comes to mind, not judgmental. Like, it literally was not just for a prop for one mic. Like, I leave it in there just because, like, Catalyst is a big part of who I am, where I've gotten. And, like, just be curious, not judgmental, is a message that I want the world to know.
Yes.
Because it's like, you will leave any situation better by being curious versus casting judgment. And, like, for me, it's like, that's a major thing.
I have to remind myself of that one a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, well, I feel like all military kids do, right?
Yeah.
Because we're just like, you're stupid. like, and it's normally not because we're judging you. It's just like we're judging the best of you. It's like, you could be so much better.
Your potential.
Yeah, it's like, why would you make such
I
a
see your
stupid-
future self, and you're really messing this up right now.
I've already been there. I understand. You're learning. Let's get past the curve. But the biggest quote, the one I would use answer to answer, is like from Rebecca, which is like, every disadvantage has its advantage. And I think that, like, I'm a great example of that, right? I'm new, I'm a disruptor, and that's only because, like, it's like either people understand me or they don't. And the people that don't understand me aren't curious enough to understand me.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm an asset to any team I'm on if I'm used right? So it's just like, we could go to Ted Lasso. There's so many opportunities to utilize that, but it's like, if you want to make an impact, you need somebody who's willing enough to, like, do that. And I was taught at an early age to be courageous, right? Like, I'm responsible for these two individuals to the point that, like, if something happens, you're gonna die first. Like that was reinforced from my childhood, right?
Yeah.
So I have courage because I was taught, right?
Yeah.
Right, to be courageous. And so I've been able to utilize that strength in a lot of different ways. But, like, I'm an asset because of how my perspective, my courage, what I can bring, the energy, the authenticity that you kind of talk about. Like, and so people either see it or they don't. And if you don't, it's because you're not willing to.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a box dude, right?
Yeah.
And so being encouraged and empowered by my community has created a gateway for me to be the greatest advantage, even when it seems on paper I have a lot of disadvantages.
Yeah. Dig it. When you're raised around leadership, it's hard to ever just, it's hard. That whole, like, learn how to say no thing. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of leadership, when it comes to leadership, I think you should always lead from a place of values. And so I'm going to let you scroll through these core values of, for me, what it's always meant to be Rogue. And so I want you to scroll through those. And
Am I
then
allowed not? Is there any that I shouldn't choose?
you can pick what, no, the whole point is I want you to pick the one that resonates with you most and then speak to it.
That's so hard. All these are great. I'm going to read them out loud. Bold as gold. Be authentic. Curate connections. Live in gratitude. Oh, man. Empathetically serve. Stay curious. I'm going to go with, man. I could go with all of these. Can I do three?
Oh my gosh. Can you do it?
Brief.
Okay.
All right.
If you can do it nice and tight.
So live in gratitude, because if you're not thankful, you need a spanking. Like, because, like, there's so, like, when you wake up and your attitude is gratitude, like, you're going to have a better day, and you have to be appreciative.
If you're not thinking, you're getting a spanking.
Yeah, because, like, like, I don't know who your higher power is, or just like be grateful that you have a life to live. You got out of bed, you woke up, be grateful.
Yeah.
Curate connections is essential to life, right? Like, none of us get anywhere like by ourselves. Like, you need somebody in your life. Community matters. You have to curate, protect, and amplify your connections. That's Catalyst, that's this. And then like the biggest one, the reason why I could not, it's be authentic.
Yeah.
Like,
Ooh, thank you for ending
Like-
on that one.
like that's the reality of what you've done for so many people like myself. That's the, Catalyst, that's Rogue Water Lab. Like, that is literally, if you are your authentic self and you show up like that, like, you're going to make a difference because nobody has what you are. And I think that, like, that's the pastoral tone, right, coming out. Because it's like existing in my own being empowered and encouraged in my own self, and like recognizing my own value has created opportunities like that I couldn't even fathom.
Yep.
I'm here in Texas, like on a Friday, chilling with you and a bunch of other great people. And it's like, you couldn't have told me this, 3 years ago. But like, it's because I decided to be bold, be courageous, and show up as me.
Well, thank you for being in Texas on a Friday. Loved having you here. And I mean, you're here for all of those reasons because you have been authentically yourself. So thank you. I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you for raising the bar and accepting the challenge.
Oh.
So many people have been impacted and inspired. You have been a catalyst to so many lives, like especially mine. Like, you are adored. You are appreciated. Like, I sing your praises often because like there's not many people who accept the challenge, pun intended, of like living their authentic life, and like you do it courageously in a way that has impacted so many. So just on behalf of myself and so many others, like, thank you for raising the bar and accepting the challenge to live out your call.
Well, thank you for raising the bar. Cheers to that. Let's like inspire that shit.